The phone's screech at 2 a.m. tore through my Kamloops home like a bayonet through flesh. My daughter's voice, my own flesh and blood, slashed deeper than any shrapnel I took in Afghanistan. "I'm getting married tomorrow. I sold the Shuswap cabin and your truck. Goodbye." Sold? That cabin? Where her mother's dying whispers still haunt the cedar walls, traded like cheap lumber? That Ford truck, the last piece of my wife's love before cancer ripped her from us, tossed away for some con man's filthy scheme. Rage burned my veins, but the pain crushed my soul to ash. Everything I bled for, every sacrifice for her, spat back in my face. How dare she? How dare anyone gut a father's heart like this? But this betrayal? And I swear, this isn't the end, it's the start of my fight to take it all back. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from, whether it's somewhere beautiful in Canada or anywhere else in this amazing world. The embers in my Kamloops fireplace flickered, casting shadows across a faded photo on the mantel, me, Laura, and Emily, laughing by Lake Shuswap 10 years ago. I'm Robert Campbell, a 60-year-old veteran who carried the scars of Afghanistan for 2 decades in the Canadian Armed Forces. That cabin, 50 kilometers north, was our sanctuary, where Laura taught Emily to fish and I buried my war demons under starlit skies. When Laura's heart gave out, it was just me and Emily against the world. I poured every cent from my pension into her future $80,000 for her UBC degree, that cabin in her name, the Ford F-150 she drove to her first job. But 6 months ago, Emily changed. Her calls stopped. Our Sunday Tim Hortons meetups vanished. "I'm busy, Dad," she'd say, her voice distant, like she was reading someone else's lines. Then I met Nathan Blake, her new boyfriend, a slick-talking investor with a Rolex and a smile sharper than a Ka-Bar knife. "You've raised an incredible daughter, Rob," he said at a Vancouver steakhouse, his eyes scanning me like a predator sizing up prey. Emily beamed, blind to his game. "Nathan's helping me build my future," she said, squeezing his hand. My gut screamed danger, honed from years dodging ambushes. Now, her betrayal selling our cabin, our truck felt like a landmine detonating in my chest. "You've controlled me too long, Dad," she'd said. Controlled? I gave her everything, and now I'd fight to take it back. The phone call's venom lingered, each word from Emily a fresh wound in my Kamloops living room. Her voice, once warm as a summer night by Lake Shuswap, now echoed with a stranger's coldness. "I'm getting married tomorrow in Vancouver, Dad. I sold the cabin and the truck to pay for it. Nathan says it's my chance to be free." Free? From what? The father who gave up his retirement to buy her that 200 square meter cabin, its cedar beams holding memories of Laura's campfire stories. The Ford F-150, the last thing my wife touched before her heart stopped 10 years ago, now pawned for some hustler's dream. My hands shook, not from age but from a rage that burned hotter than any firefight in Kandahar. "Emily, that cabin's in a trust," I said, my voice steady as steel despite the storm inside. "You can't sell what's not legally yours." Silence stretched across the line, 300 kilometers from Vancouver to Kamloops. "Nathan checked everything," she snapped, her tone sharp, rehearsed. "He says you've trapped me in your control, keeping me dependent." "I'm 27, Dad. I don't need your permission," Nathan says. Those 2 words lit a fuse in my gut. I'd faced insurgents who hid behind lies, but this was different. This was my daughter, parroting a con man's script. "Honey, listen to me," I pleaded, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles whitened. "That cabin, that truck, they're tied to a trust I set up to protect you, not cage you." Her laugh was bitter, cutting. Protect me? Nathan says you're just scared of losing control. He's giving me a future, Dad, something you never understood since Mom died. The heart monitor from my last checkup would have screamed at that moment. 10 years of raising Emily alone, driving 400 kilometers to her UBC graduation, working overtime to cover her $30,000 tuition erased by a man I barely knew. Nathan Blake, with his tailored suits and too perfect smile, had sunk his claws into her. Emily, we need to talk about this in person, I said, fighting to keep my voice from breaking. There's nothing to talk about, she shot back. The sale's done. The money's for our wedding and honeymoon. Goodbye, Dad. The line went dead, leaving only the crackle of the fireplace and the weight of betrayal. But then, something shifted. The binh in me, the one who'd survived ambushes and outsmarted enemies, woke up. You forgot one thing, Emily. I whispered to the empty room, my voice low and dangerous. That cabin trust was my trap, built with the precision of a soldier's strategy. Nathan thought he'd scored $500,000 in equity, but he'd just stepped on a landmine. I grabbed my old service jacket, the one I hadn't worn since Afghanistan, and headed for my desk. Papers from the trust waited there, proof that Emily's sale was a fraud. Nathan Blake was about to learn he'd picked the wrong father to cross. The silence after Emily's call was a battlefield, the kind I hadn't faced since Afghanistan. I sat in my Kamloops living room, the fireplace's glow mocking the cold spreading through my chest. My eyes locked on the photo above the mantel. Laura, Emily, and me, standing on the dock at our Shuswap cabin, 200 kilometers north. 10 years ago, Laura's laughter had filled those summer nights, her hands guiding Emily's tiny fingers to bait a fishing hook. Rob, promise you'll keep her safe. Laura had whispered in the hospital, her voice frail as the heart monitor flatlined. I swore that oath, and for a decade, I lived at every overtime shift at the mill, every dollar scraped for Emily's $80,000 UBC tuition, every sleepless night to keep her dreams alive. Now, she'd sold that cabin, our sacred ground, and the Ford F-150 Laura picked out before cancer claimed her. For what? A wedding to Nathan Blake, a snake in a $5,000 suit who'd poisoned my daughter's heart. My hands trembled as I pulled the photo down, the frame cold as my resolve hardened. How could you, Emily? I muttered, my voice cracking like ice on the Thompson River. I'd survived ambushes, carried wounded brothers through Kandahar's dust, but this betrayal cut deeper than any bullet. I saw Emily at 5, clutching my medals, calling me her hero. At 16, sobbing at Laura's funeral, promising we'd always have each other. At 24, spinning in the Shuswap cabin's living room, her eyes bright with gratitude. Dad, this place is my forever home, she'd said, hugging me until my ribs ached. Now, at 27, she'd traded it all for Nathan's lies. You've controlled me too long, she'd spat, echoing his venom. Controlled? I'd given her freedom to chase her dreams, to live without fear. The pain wasn't just her words, it was the erasure of Laura's memory, the shattering of my promise. I staggered to the window, the Kamloops night stretching dark and endless. Laura, I failed you, I whispered, my breath fogging the glass. The weight of that failure crushed me, heavier than the 40-kilogram pack I'd carried in the desert. I'd fought for my country, for my men, but I couldn't save my own daughter from a predator. Nathan's shadow loomed his slick promises, his Rolex glinting like a warning. He turned Emily against me, twisted her love into a weapon. But I wasn't done. The binh in me stirred, the one who'd outlasted ambushes and outsmarted enemies. You want to fight, Nathan? I growled, clenching my fists. You've got one. I turned back to the desk, where the trust papers sat like loaded ammunition. Emily thought she'd sold the cabin, but she didn't know the trap I'd set years ago. Nathan Blake was about to face a father's wrath, and I'd make sure he paid for every tear. The Kamloops dawn broke cold, the sun barely piercing the fog over the Thompson River, but my resolve burned hotter than ever. Emily's betrayal selling the Shuswap GST cabin and Laura's Ford F-150 had gutted me, but I wasn't the soldier who'd buckled in Afghanistan. I was Robert Campbell, and Nathan Blake had just declared war. My dining room became a command post, papers strewn like battle plans. The trust documents for the 200 square meter cabin notarized 5 years ago to protect Emily's future, and the title for the truck still in my name. Nathan thought he'd conned his way to $500,000, but he'd tripped a legal landmine I'd set long before he slithered into our lives. I dialed Tom Bennett, my old comrade from the Canadian Armed Forces, now a private investigator in Vancouver, 350 kilometers away. "Tom, it's Rob," I said, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. "Emily's caught in a trap. Her boyfriend, Nathan Blake, convinced her to sell the cabin and truck. I need you to dig into this guy everything." Tom's reply was all business, the kind of focus we'd shared under fire. "Give me his full name, any details you've got. I'll have something by tomorrow." I rattled off Nathan's name, his Vancouver address from Emily's last text, and the plate number of his flashy BMW I'd clocked at that steakhouse dinner. "This stays between us," I added. "For now." By noon, I was at my desk, poring over the trust papers. The cabin, perched 50 kilometers north on Lake Shuswap's shore, was locked in the Campbell family trust, with me as trustee. Emily could live there, but selling it? Impossible without my signature. Nathan's scheme was built on sand, and I'd make it crumble, but the pain of Emily's words, "You've controlled me too long," clawed at me. I pictured her at 20, driving the F-150 to her first teaching job, grinning like Laura used to. Now, at 27, she was a stranger, her voice laced with Nathan's poison. "How did I miss this?" I muttered, slamming the papers down. The Kurbin in me knew, you don't see the enemy until they strike. Tom called the next morning, his voice grim as a battlefield report. "Rob, Nathan Blake's a ghost. No real estate license, no registered business. His BMW's leased $1,200 a month, and he's missed 3 payments. Lives in a $4,000 a month condo in Yaletown, but the rent's overdue." I found 2 women, Clara in Toronto, Sarah Mitchell in Calgary. Both married him, both lost everything. Clara's out $200,000, Sarah's savings and her condo, $300,000 gone. Same playbook, whirlwind romance, rushed wedding, then he drains their accounts and vanishes. My heart pounded, not from fear but fury. "He's targeting Emily's trust," I said. "He thinks it's hers to sell." Tom's pause was heavy. "Rob, he's done this before. He's good. But I'm better. Give me 48 hours for a full report." I drove to the Shuswap cabin that afternoon, needing to feel the place Nathan tried to steal. The cedar walls smelled of pine and memories, Laura's campfire songs, Emily's childhood laughter. I stood on the dock, the lake stretching 20 kilometers wide, and clenched my fists. "You won't take this, Nathan," I growled. But doubt crept in. Emily's last call replayed in my head. "Nathan says you're scared of losing control." Was I too late? Had Nathan's lies buried her love for me? I called her, my voice shaking with a father's desperation. "Emily, we need to meet. This isn't about control, it's about protecting you." Her reply was ice. "Nathan says you'll say anything to stop us. I'm done listening, Dad." The line went dead. Back in Kamloops, I met Tom at a Tim Hortons, the hum of locals grounding me. He slid a folder across the table. Preliminary findings. Nathan's got a pattern targets women with assets, plays the loving partner, then bolts. Clara and Sarah filed complaints, but he's slippery. No convictions. I flipped through the pages. Bank records, marriage certificates, restraining orders that never stuck. He's a predator, I said, my voice low, lethal, and Emily's his prey. Tom nodded. We need hard evidence to break his hold on her. I'm digging deeper offshore accounts, aliases. But Rob, she's not listening to you. What's your next move? I leaned back, the Bin's instincts kicking in. I set the trust to protect her. Now I'll use it to trap him. Nathan Blake's about to learn what happens when you cross a father who's been to war. The Kamloops Tim Hortons buzzed with late-afternoon chatter, the smell of coffee and donuts grounding me as I sat at a corner table, my folder of trust documents and Tom Bennett's investigation reports stacked like ammunition. I, Robert Campbell, had faced insurgents in Afghanistan, but today's battle was personal. My daughter Emily, manipulated by Nathan Blake, the con man who'd conned her into selling our Shuswap cabin and Laura's Ford F-150. My heart pounded, not from fear but from a bin's fury, the kind that had kept me alive in Kandahar. I'd driven 10 kilometers from my Kamloops home, the 60-year-old scars of war urging me to save my daughter before Nathan's lies buried her for good. The bell above the door jingled, and there they were, Emily, her eyes guarded, and Nathan, his Rolex glinting under the fluorescent lights, his smile as sharp as a switchblade. I stood, my voice low but steady. Emily, Nathan, thanks for coming. Emily's arms crossed, her face a mask of defiance. Dad, this better be quick. Nathan says you're just stalling our plans. Nathan slid into the booth across from me, his tailored jacket screaming money he didn't earn. Rob, let's keep this civil, he said, his tone smooth as ice on the Thompson River. Emily's made her choices. Choices? My grip tightened on the folder. Choices based on lies. I shot back, sliding the trust documents toward Emily. The Shuswap cabin, 200 square meters of our family's heart, it's in a trust. You can live there, Emily, but you can't sell it, not without my signature. Her eyes flicked to the papers, but Nathan leaned in, his voice dripping with fake concern. Rob, you're upsetting her. Those documents are outdated. I had a lawyer check everything. My blood boiled. A lawyer? I snapped, pulling out Tom's report. Then explain this, Nathan. Clara Nguyen, Toronto, 2019 $200,000 gone after marrying you. Sarah Mitchell, Calgary, 2021 $300,000 in her condo, vanished. Same story. Fast romance, fake promises, then you're gone. The cafe's hum faded as Emily's face paled. Dad, stop it, she said, her voice trembling but sharp. Nathan explained those women, they're just bitter exes spreading lies. Nathan's smile didn't waver, but his eyes darted to the exit. Rob, you're embarrassing yourself, he said. Digging up gossip to control Emily? That's low, even for a veteran with your history. History? The jab hit like shrapnel, but I leaned forward, my voice a growl. My history taught me to spot a snake. You're no investor, Nathan. Your BMW's on its last lease payment, and your Yaletown condo's 3 months behind on rent. You needed Emily's cabin money to save your skin. Emily slammed her hand on the table, the sound cutting through the Tim Hortons chatter. Enough, Dad. Nathan loves me. He's building our future, not tearing it down like you. Her words were a dagger, twisting the wound left by Laura's death 10 years ago. I fought to keep my voice steady. Emily, he's using you. Look at the trust papers, the sales void, The buyers will demand their $500,000 back when they find out. Nathan laughed, a cold, calculated sound. You're delusional, Rob. Emily's an adult. She doesn't need your permission or your paranoia, right, babe? Emily nodded, but her eyes lingered on the folder, doubt flickering like a candle in a storm. I pushed the papers closer. Emily, read them. See the trust structure. I set it up to protect you, not to chain you. She shoved them back, her voice rising. Nathan says you're manipulating me, just like always. I'm done with this, Dad. Nathan stood, guiding her toward the door. We're leaving, Rob. Expect a letter from my lawyer slanders a serious charge. My fists clenched as they walked out, the bell jingling like a taunt. The Kerbin and me wanted to chase them, to drag Nathan into the street and end his game. But I'd learned patience in war. This wasn't the end, it was a retreat to regroup. Back home, I called Tom. They didn't listen, I said, my voice raw. Nathan's got her too deep. Tom's reply was steady. We've got more on him, Rob. Offshore accounts, fake IDs. He's planning to run. We need to hit him harder where it hurts. I nodded, staring at the Shuswap cabin photo on my mantle. Nathan thought he'd won this round, but I was already planning the next battle. Emily was still my daughter, and I'd fight to the last breath to save her. Cao chào thứ hai. Đối đầu tại lễ cưới 20. Không. 25. Không. The Vancouver conference hall glowed with maple leaf banners and white lilies, a mockery of the sacred bond it was meant to celebrate. I, Robert Campbell, stood at the back, my heart a furnace of rage and resolve, clutching a manila folder thicker than any battle plan I'd carried in Afghanistan. Emily, my daughter, stood at the altar in a white dress, her eyes hollow under Nathan Blake's spell. That con man, in a $3,000 suit he couldn't afford, grinned like he'd already cashed the $500,000 from our Shuswap cabin. Beside me, Tom Bennett, my Kerbin brother turned investigator, nodded silently, while Clara and Sarah Mitchell, Nathan's past victims, waited in the shadows, their faces etched with the same betrayal I felt. We'd driven 350 kilometers from Kamloops to end this farce, and I'd be damned if Nathan walked away unscathed. The officiant's voice echoed, "If anyone objects to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace." I stepped forward, my boots heavy on the polished floor, the folder raised like a grenade. "I object," I declared, my voice cutting through the murmurs of the 30 guests, mostly Nathan's shady business associates. Emily's bouquet trembled, her eyes flashing with anger. "Dad, how dare you?" she hissed. Nathan's smirk faltered, his hand tightening on her arm. "Rob, this is a private event," he snarled, his Vancouver polish cracking. "You're not welcome here." I marched down the aisle, the Kerbin in me locking onto my target. "Emily, you need to see who you're marrying," I said, slamming the folder onto the altar. "Nathan Blake's no investor. He's a thief." I opened the folder, revealing Clara's marriage certificate from Toronto, 2019. Clara Nguyen, married to Nathan, lost $200,000 in savings. Clara stepped forward, her voice steady but raw. "He promised me a future, Emily, then drained my accounts and disappeared." Gasps rippled through the crowd as I placed Sarah's certificate beside it. Calgary, 2021. Sarah Mitchell, married to Nathan, lost $300,000 in her condo, I said. Sarah's eyes burned into Nathan. "He used the same words he's fed you," Emily word for word. Nathan lunged for the documents, his face flushed. "These are lies, fabricated by a desperate old man." But the guests leaned closer, sensing the truth. Emily's voice wavered. "Nathan, you said you'd never been married." He grabbed her wrist, his charm slipping. "Babe, don't let him manipulate you. We can leave now. Start fresh. I spread Tom's investigation across the altar. Bank records showing Nathan's $4,000 a month Yaletown condo, 3 months behind. His BMW repossessed last week. Offshore accounts linked to Clara and Sarah's stolen funds. You thought you'd sell our cabin, Nathan, I said, my voice a low growl. But it's locked in the Campbell family trust. The sale's void. You get nothing. Emily's eyes darted to the trust papers, her hands shaking. Dad, is this true? She whispered. You set up a trust. I nodded, my throat tight. To protect you, not control you. Nathan's been lying from the start. Nathan's mask shattered, his voice rising. You're ruining everything, Rob. Emily, don't listen. He's just a bitter veteran clinging to the past. Clara stepped closer, her voice cutting like a blade. He told me I was his first love too, Emily. Then he left me bankrupt. Sarah added, check the bank statements. He's planning to run again $50. 000 withdrawn this week. Emily's bouquet hit the floor, her face crumpling as she read Clara's statement, the words mirroring Nathan's promises to her. We'll build a life together, forever. She turned to him, tears streaming. You said I was your only one. Were you going to leave me too? Nathan's eyes darted to the exit, but Tom blocked the aisle, his curabin stance unyielding. You're not going anywhere, Blake, Tom said. The guests backed away, their whispers turning to outrage. Emily ripped off her veil, her voice breaking. You lied to me, Nathan. It's over. She stumbled toward me, and for the first time in months, I saw my daughter, not Nathan's puppet. Nathan shouted after her, Emily, don't do this! But the hall's doors swung shut behind us, his lies exposed, his scheme in ruins. The Vancouver conference hall's doors slammed shut behind us, drowning out Nathan Blake's desperate shouts, his lies crumbling like a poorly built trench. I, Robert Campbell, held Emily's trembling hand as we stepped into the cool night air, 350 kilometers from our Kamloops home. Her wedding dress trailed behind, a ghost of the future Nathan had tried to steal. The rage that had fueled me through Afghanistan and Nathan's betrayal still burned, but now it softened, giving way to a father's relief. Emily's tears soaked my old service jacket, each sob a step back to the daughter I'd raised alone since Laura's heart failed 10 years ago. The Shuswap cabin, 200 square meters of cedar and memories, and Laura's Ford F-150 were safe-locked in the Campbell family trust I'd crafted to shield her. But the real victory was Emily, free from Nathan's grip, standing beside me. We drove back to Kamloops at dawn, the Trans-Canada Highway stretching 400 kilometers through mountains that felt like guardians. Emily was silent, her eyes fixed on the dashboard where a photo of her and Laura at Lake Shuswap tucked into the visor. Dad, she whispered, her voice raw. How could I be so blind? I kept my eyes on the road, my hands steady on the wheel, but my heart ached. You weren't blind, Emily, I said, my voice soft but firm, like I'd spoken to my men in Kandahar. Nathan's a predator. He fooled women like Clara and Sarah, smart, strong women. You're not to blame. She shook her head, tears falling. I sold our cabin, Mom's truck. I believed him when he said you were controlling me. I'm so sorry, Dad. Her words hit harder than any bullet, but they carried love, not betrayal. I pulled over at a rest stop, the North Thompson River glinting 10 meters away. Emily, look at me, I said, turning to face her. You're my daughter. I've fought for you every day since your mom died. That cabin, that truck, they're just things. You're what matters. She fell into my arms, sobbing like she had at Laura's funeral, a 7-year-old girl clinging to her father. I thought I was building a future, she said, her voice muffled against my chest. Nathan made it sound so real. I stroked her hair the way Laura used to. "He used your heart against you," I said, "but you're stronger than his lies. You always have been." Back in Kamloops, Tom Bennett called with an update, his voice steady as ever. "Vancouver PD arrested Nathan this morning, Rob. Fraud, theft, conspiracy charges based on Clara and Sarah's testimonies, plus your trust documents. He's facing years behind bars." I leaned against my kitchen counter, the photo of Laura, Emily, and me on the mantel watching over us. "Will he fight it?" I asked. Tom snorted, his lawyers scrambling, but the evidence is ironclad. Clara's got bank records showing $200,000 stolen, Sarah's got $300,000 in losses. Your trust scam exposed his whole game. Relief washed over me, but it wasn't enough. Nathan's punishment was justice, but healing Emily was my mission. We drove to the Shuswap cabin that evening, 50 kilometers north, the lake's calm surface reflecting the setting sun. Emily stepped onto the dock, her fingers tracing the wooden railing where Laura had taught her to fish. "I almost lost this place," she said, her voice breaking. Mom would have been so disappointed. I stood beside her, the cool air carrying memories of Laura's campfire songs. "Your mom would be proud of you," I said. "You face the truth, Emily. That takes courage." She turned to me, her eyes clearer than they'd been in months. "You never gave up on me, Dad. Even when I pushed you away." I smiled, my throat tight. A binh doesn't abandon his own, neither does a father. As the stars emerged over Lake Shuswap, we sat by the fire pit, the same one where Laura had told stories of Haida legends. Emily clutched a mug of hot chocolate, a habit she'd kept since childhood. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now, we rebuild," I said. "You, me, this cabin. Nathan's gone, but we're still here." She nodded, a spark of her old strength returning. "I want to make this right, Dad. For you, for Mom." I squeezed her hand, the weight of 10 years lifting. The cabin stood firm, Laura's memory alive in its walls, and Emily was home. Nathan Blake had tried to break us, but he'd underestimated a father's love and a bin's fight. The Shuswap cabin stood quiet under a blanket of stars, its cedar walls whispering memories of Laura's laughter and Emily's childhood dreams. I, Robert Campbell, sat with my daughter by the fire pit, the lake's gentle ripples 20 meters away carrying the weight of our journey. 10 years after Laura's heart gave out, I'd kept my promise to protect Emily, not just from the world but from a predator like Nathan Blake, who'd tried to steal her future and our family's soul. The 200 square meter cabin, locked in the Campbell Family Trust, and Laura's Ford F-150 were safe. But the real treasure was Emily's return, her hand in mine, her eyes clear of Nathan's lies. As a binh who'd faced death in Afghanistan, I learned that battles aren't won with rage alone. They're won with love, the kind that endures betrayal and fights through pain. Nathan thought he could break us, but he didn't know the strength of a father's heart or the bond forged by a Canadian family. This fight taught me something deeper, something I carry from the battlefields of Kandahar to the quiet shores of Lake Shuswap. Trust can be a weapon in the wrong hands, but love, real, unflinching love, is a shield. Nathan preyed on Emily's trust, twisting her grief for Laura into a tool for his greed. Yet, standing together, we proved that family is stronger than any con man's lies. To every binh, every parent, every Canadian who's fought for what matters, protect your own, but never stop questioning those who promise too much. The cabin still stands, 50 kilometers north of Kamloops, a testament to love's endurance. Emily and I rebuilt what Nathan tried to destroy, and that's a victory no one can take. If this story touched you, if it stirred the fire in your heart, Please hit that like button on Maple Revenge. Drop a comment below, share your own story of fighting for family, for justice, or for truth. Your words might save someone else from a Nathan Blake. Subscribe to Maple Revenge to join us in telling stories that matter, stories of grit and heart that echo across Canada. As the fire crackled and Emily leaned against my shoulder, I felt Laura's presence in the Shuswap breeze, whispering that we'd done her proud. This isn't just our story, it's a call to stand tall, to fight for those you love, and to never let a con man dim your light.